his specifications had made his heart pound in a way he'd never before experienced. Seeing the enemy routed, listening to his soldiers cheer, those things certainly felt glorious. But there was no glory for the medics, surgeons, and priests wandering the aftermath. Demir contemplated the swampy morass of blood left in the wake of a company of soldiers who'd fallen beneath a glass dancer's attack. The bodies were eviscerated, sliced apart by millions of shards of glass. Those that survived looked like horror house dummies, screaming in agony until a medic could reach them with various types of godglass to distract the mind, lessen the pain, and speed recovery. Was that his handiwork, he wondered? They were rebel soldiers, after all, and it was easy to lose track of these sorts of things during the chaos of a battle. His eyes fell on one of the wounded, a young woman sitting up with precious pain-deadening milk glass clenched between her teeth. She was staring at Demir with a mixture of horror and fear so intense that Demir found himself covering the overlapping triangle tattoo on his left hand that marked his sorcery. His glass dance tutor had once told him that it was good and right for their kind to stand above others. It was a gift, she had claimed, and beyond the sorcerer's power to manipulate common glass, it would also give him a psychological edge over others. They would always fear him because they knew he could kill with a thought. The evidence was before him. Hundreds of men and women cut to ribbons. They were right to fear him. He had never witnessed his own destructive power with such acuity as he had on the battlefield these last 7 days, and deep down, it terrified him. Would he get used to this over time? He was only 20 years old after all, and this was his first campaign. Would he harden? Or would it always leave him sickened? Demir looked around for something, anything, with which to ground himself. His staff of officers hadn't yet noticed his disappearance, and he was alone but for the dead, the wounded, and the healers and priests who tended to both. The living gave him a wide berth the moment they connected his decorated black uniform with a Silic sigil marking him as a glass dancer. They might not actually recognize him, but they could do the math. General Grappo, the glass dancer commander. He hated that so much. Why couldn't they see the victories he'd given them, instead of the deadly sorcery he never wanted? His eyes finally fell on a familiar figure, and he turned his aimless wandering in that direction. He passed a medic handing a piece of white godglass the size and shape of a horseshoe nail to a wounded soldier. "Clutch it between your teeth until the pain passes," the medic instructed, glancing at Demir as if it were his doing. Half the soldier's guts were hanging out. She would be dead in a few hours, but the sorcery of the milk glass would ease her passing. On a whim, Demir tried to feel the little piece of milk glass with his sorcery, but the spot it occupied was cold and dead to his senses. Godglass was the only glass a glass dancer could not manipulate. Putting the medic and his dying patient from his mind, Demir approached the man he'd seen kneeling in a small clearing in the field of dead. Demir knew him just well enough to guess that he was not praying. Clearing his head, he called it, before and after every battle. Demir wished more soldiers attended to their own minds as carefully. Idrian Sepulki was big, over 6 feet tall, with skin as dark as coal, broad shoulders, and legs strong as tree trunks. He wore the armor of a breacher, half plate of interlocking steel worked with a myriad of high-resonance godglass, accents of milk glass to suppress pain, bands of yellow forge glass to increase his strength and speed, pinpricks of purple wick glass to invigorate the mind. Most predominant of all was the dark blue hammer glass that was harder than steel, making the armor itself almost indestructible. Idrian's kite shield and immense bastard sword, both also inlaid with godglass, lay on the ground beside him.